well, this is the next project. So these are the forks, and they were actually seized up, but with a bit of lubrication and some judicious application of force, I managed to free them off. So they're now moving. That one feels a bit graunchy, and there's something not quite right about the way that's moving there. Something moving inside. This one is fairly free now. So these are what they call rod damper forks. I don't know if you can see this, but they're this type, and there's the damper valves down in here. And there's a rod that comes up, and the rod screws into the inside of the nut that goes on the top of the forks. If we look at it here, you can see that that's the rod there, and that screws onto the top of there, and then that screws into the top of the fork. So that one moves. This one, the rod itself is stuck in one position, doesn't actually come up, so they're obviously got to come to pieces, and I need to have a look at what's going on inside them anyway. So I need to work out how to get these to pieces. And of course, when you read the book, it tells you that you need, for this one, you need BSA service tool number 613005, which, funnily enough, I don't happen to have one of those in the drawer. So I'll do a bit of investigation online and find out A, what that is, B, is it obtainable, and C, can I do anything else instead? So let me go and do a bit of investigation. So after a bit of investigation, what you got to do is unscrew this chrome sleeve, which is the oil seal holder. I guess the oil seal's held in with this, and it's what the spring seats down onto. You've got to unscrew this from the fork leg, and then it allows you to withdraw the fork leg from it. And you need this special tool to do that. So after a bit of investigation, that's what the special tool looks like. So it's a tube that drops down on over the fork leg, and at the bottom of it, it's got a couple of dogs sticking out that engage into. If we look at this, you can see the dogs stick out the bottom, and they engage into two little cutouts in the inside of the fork, this seal holder, and allow you to unscrew it easy. So I'm thinking that if I can find a piece of tube that will slide down over the fork leg, I can cut a couple of little dogs out the bottom of it, and maybe make something up that allows me to do that. Save me having to spend $50 and wait for this to come. So I'm going to have an investigation of seeing what I can do to make one of those up with what I've got lying around. So let's see what I can find. So I've come across a little bit of a problem. I started to have a look at if I could find a piece of tube that would slide over this to make this tool. And supposed to engage in a couple of slots in the oil seal, the plate that holds the oil seal down, that's in the halfway down this chrome tube. And so I wanted to have a look there, see how big the slots were, so I could see what I needed to cut out. But if you look, I don't know if you can see this, if we look down there in the bottom of this and I rotate it, BSA in their infinite wisdom have omitted the cutouts. So I'm glad I didn't spend $50 on a special tool, because there would have been nothing for it to engage on down in the bottom of this hole. So I'm going to have to think about another plan. Nothing's ever easy, is it? So I've done some more investigation, and because I was pretty confused by what I was seeing in the last little clip, and because I was looking down the looking down the this sleeve here, and I could only see halfway, and there was obviously a disc there, and I thought that was where the dogs were supposed to be. But it turns out it wasn't. It turns out that there was, in each of the legs, there was one of these washers, I guess. And halfway down this chrome spacer, it's necked in slightly. So sitting on where that was necked in was on one of these spacers, which is what the spring was sitting on. But it's not shown in any of the drawings or discussed in anything that I've read, so I don't know why these are there. It obviously raises the gives you an extra probably 1.5 inches of ride height on the front forks, and maybe that was done on the Victor Special. But anyway, these were in there. They were in there pretty solid. But fortunately, there's a little bit of play on them. You can probably see that there's a little bit of play, and I could just get a piece of welding rod down between in the hole between the spacer and the fork leg, so I was able to make a little hook, and after much messing about I was able to pull both of these out. So with those gone, I can now see to the bottom of the sleeve, and I can see where the slots are for the dogs. So I've been and acquired a piece of 1.25 inch ID pipe. It cost me about $4. And I think I can make a tool out of this, but it won't drop all the way down, and that's because, I don't know if you can see this on the inside there, there's a weld down it that runs down the inside with a little bit of a ridge on it. So first thing I've got to do is try and file that off so that I can get this to drop all the way down, because it won't go all the way down at the moment. So I'll have a go at tidying that up and see if I can get it to fit, but I think that I should be able to make something out of this to be able to unscrew this. We'll see how we get on with that. So after a bit of judicious filing with my trusty round file, I've managed to take that lip off, and now it fits quite nicely down there. Rotate. So I now need to square this end off and cut a couple of stick out dogs in this, so they stick out, and we'll try and engage in the cutouts that are in there. So far so good. Okay, so I've cut my little teeth onto the tool. It now drops in, and if I rotate it, it drops and engages in the slots. So we're getting there. The thing is, I don't want this. I was thinking about just putting a set of Stiltons on this and just trying to unwind it, but I think I've got to apply quite a lot of downward pressure because I don't want it riding up and wrecking the slots in the bottom of here. So I think I'm going to go. I've got some rebar somewhere. I'm going to go and weld a couple of Tommy bars onto this so I can, put a good amount of force down on it whilst I try and unscrew it. So next job is a bit of welding. See if we can put some Tommy bars on this. I'll let you know how I get on. Well, here it is with my Tommy bars welded on. Not the best welding in the world, but I think adequate for the job. So let's try it out. Come on, engage and sit. Let's see if we can. Oh, done. Woohoo! Well, it came off pretty easily. Somebody's obviously tried to do this before, because this is quite damaged, but that's interesting. Let's try it all the way up. Okay, well that's off. I need to read the next part of the manual. Let's try the other one. Oh, that's tight. Ooh. I think I've got to apply some heat on this one. And we're going to have a play with that. So it's about 3 hours now since since the end of the last little clip, and I've struggled to get this one off, but you can see it's now free. It was much tighter than the other one, so I had to do some modification. If you can see on my tool here, I ended up, so I'd cut it into the threads and it wasn't strong enough, so I ended up using the oxyacetylene and filling all the threads in so I had solid teeth to work from. And then I also ran out of gas halfway through that, so I've had to go and refill my gas cylinders today. And then recut the teeth on it, and then I heat treated them, so I heated them up to cherry red and then quenched them to give them a bit of hardness. So that eventually got the teeth so that they weren't deforming, and then I also needed a lot of heat on the fork leg here. But I kept the heat only to the leg, not onto the chrome, so I don't think I've damaged any of that. So this is now slack, the other one is in bits, so I'm pleased with that. I'm pleased I could make one of those. So next one is to tear them down and see what the heck's going on inside them, but I think that's a job for tomorrow. It's nearly 6 o'clock now, so I'm going to knock it on the head.